Yeah. Surprise, a little different than you used to. Yeah. Dropping these bars on YouTube, knowledge I introduce you. Yeah. We chasing this money like it's the prize, it's the voodoo. Fugazi, fugazi, it's just a lie we buying into. We need some cars on deck. Get the rollies, get the moe, all the Mars on deck.
All right, good afternoon. I'm doing this slightly earlier in the day because this evening I'm busy. But this is fascinating. I mean, if you joined me yesterday for the live stream, we were hearing comments from Andy Hardane, who used to be an economist at the Bank of England. And he was talking about how he feels the Bank of England have made mistakes with their decisions to obviously increase rates as they have. He mentioned yesterday as well that perhaps he would have paused on the interest rate hikes a couple of hikes ago. And as if like clockwork today, there were comments from Andrew Bailey, which he made yesterday. And it looks as though there is going to be a U-turn on what they think they're going to do around interest rates. Now, I'd love to get your opinion on this, guys. So in the chat, I have posted a poll and I've asked you whether you think the Bank of England have a plan or whether they have zero clue, like nada, zilch, nothing. They have no clue what they're doing. And the poll is open, so please go and vote. But I do just want to give a shout out to No Name right here. This did make me chuckle. Thank you, mate. I bet the Bank of England will take a W, read as W for win, and turn it into a win. Muppet Show. I like that, mate. Really, really good comment. Thank you very, very much. But yeah, look, this is what we're going to be discussing today. It feels as though there is going to be a possible U-turn on more rate rises. And that's what I'm going to cover. I'm going to provide some commentary on this as well. We're also going to listen to Andrew Bailey from about a month ago. Because, look, this situation is fluid, right? And to a certain extent, you've kind of, you do kind of have to play it by ear. But you've been signposting this for so long that what I think people need is some kind of certainty around of, right, what's happening? And it feels as though this is a marked change from some of the language that we have been hearing thus far to this point. So I'm just going to share a couple of things with you. And look, let's get into it. If you do have comments, if you do have questions, please do pop them in the chat. I'll get to them a bit later on. And if you do find value from this, make sure you smash the like button. It's a very, very small thing for you to do, but it means that other people that might benefit from this video also get to watch it and see this video as well, because the YouTube algorithm will recommend it to them. Right, so let's have a look at this article right here. So this is from the Times, by the way. And look at the headline. Peak interest rates reached, says Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey. Peak interest rates reached. Reads very, very positive and is very, very welcome. This will definitely provide a bit of peace of mind to people who have mortgages and maybe to renters who have been concerned about costs. That doesn't take away the impact of the 14 rate rises that we have seen thus far, but it should provide a little bit of, I guess, relief if people are worried that things could get even worse from here on out. Let's listen to what he has had to say. The Governor Bank of England yesterday cast doubt on the need for further interest rate rises, sending the pound to a 3-month low. I'll look at that in a moment with you, but let's continue here first. Andrew Bailey hinted that the Bank of England is through with lifting interest rates and stressed inflation was on a course for a marked decline. Now, if you have been following me, and I kind of went through this with you guys yesterday, I need to bring this up on a separate screen. Bear me 1 second while I prepare this, because it's really, really interesting when you look at what he's saying in conjunction with what the data is actually telling us right now. So let me just get this up and I can share this with you on a separate screen. There we are. United Kingdom. Let's share this instead, right? So we always reference back to this chart right here, because this is the forecast for the UK, right? So he's saying that, inflation is set for a marked decline, and he's right. According to the forecast, if they are right, we will see inflation at the next check-in fall from 6.8% to 5.8%. That's a 1% reduction. And let's not forget, 2 months ago, 3 months ago almost, we were at 11.11%. So we've gone from double figures into single figures, and the margin is actually pretty large. So we're making progress in that regard. So this is what we're referring to. And look, the forecast from here is 3.9 in Q4 2023, 2.7 in Q1 2024. I honestly still believe that is very, very optimistic, given the fact that the states who are in a way better situation than we are right now, they're currently at 3.2% as their inflation figure. They're projecting that they're going to hit their 2% target in Q2 of 2024. We're projecting we're going to hit it in what? Well, sorry, they're predicting they will hit it in Q3 of 2024. We're predicting that we're going to hit our 2% target a full quarter earlier than they are. And our inflation rate is over double theirs right now. So I'm a little skeptical, but this is what he's referring to. This is the trajectory that is being forecast for inflation. Now, let's get back over to that article. Let me just share this one again. Now, he says here that responding to questions from MPs, and he's talking about whether or not this is now restrictive. And I do want to play this clip for you because he did talk a little bit about the fact that we're in restrictive territory right now. So at the moment, the big issue is if you raise interest rates, what you're basically doing is you're hurting people's pockets. And that's kind of, let me go full screen. And that's kind of what you're looking for in a really roundabout way. You're looking to make the cost of things come down by restricting people's spending. You do that by increasing mortgage payments, interest rates. You make it more expensive to acquire things like debt. So debt becomes more expensive. But it comes really, really restrictive from an economic point of view, because if people have less money to spend, there's less money going into the economy. That could then lead to a recession. And yesterday we heard Andy Haldane talk about the fact that are we at this point where it is a little too restrictive right now? He talked about the fact that the chances of a recession right now are 50-50. And so we find ourselves in a pickle. The language that they've been using, even Jeremy Hunt was, and I covered this on the channel, went on TV and said he would happily back the Bank of England, the Monetary Policy Committee, and support their push to increase interest rates in this fight against inflation, even if it meant that we would tip into a recession. And when you start looking at our GDP numbers, they are razor thin right now. And the issue with raising interest rates is not only are you going to hurt people in terms of the rent and the mortgage that they have to pay, what we do know is that less than 1 in 4 of us in the UK have £100 in savings. That's how bad it is. So when you have mortgages and rents increasing, people don't have savings. What are they likely to do? They're likely to go towards credit cards, overdrafts, personal loans, debt. But now that you've raised interest rates, those things are even more expensive, which puts the squeeze on people even more. So it's a really vicious cycle. And this is where I think this U-turn is coming from, in the fact that the prospect of a recession is very, very, very real right now, particularly if this forecast doesn't go according to plan and they have to continue to push interest rates up even further. But I want to play you this clip because this is really, really interesting. This is a month ago, Andrew Bailey speaking to the media, and he was asked very, very plainly to explain what he meant by, high interest rates for much, much longer. And we're talking a little bit about what was said in the article that I've been referencing in a moment. But listen to this.
Could you actually explain in plain English to normal people what you mean by, policy will remain sufficiently restrictive for sufficiently long?
So the first thing to say is we do see policy now as restrictive. And interestingly, I think the Federal Reserve and the ECB have said something similar in the last week or so, actually, which means that we do see policy acting to bring inflation down. It's having the effect that we now, and of course, there's a lag in the transmission of policy, so it's not a surprise that we've had to wait for a while for this to happen. We see the evidence now, so that gives us a sort of basis for now saying what's going to happen here on. And what we're really saying is, look, it's going to have to remain restrictive to have this effect of bringing inflation down, and particularly next year. A lot of this year, we're going to see inflation come down rapidly, but a lot of that is the unwinding of things that happened last year, energy and so on. It's the last mile, if you like. I use this sort of term sort of a bit loosely. It's the last mile, which obviously where policy is really doing the work, and we're going to have to see policy stay restrictive. Now, the question then is for how long?
Right, that's the question.
Now, I'm afraid the answer is because we don't know at the moment. That's why we say for sufficiently long to have its effect, because it's too soon to judge really how long that's going to take. And the reason is that I think, because we've now, I'm much more confident now that it's on the downslope. But of course, people want to see that. They want to really believe it. They want to build, and then it gets built into people's expectations. It gets built into price setting. It gets built into wage setting. We've got to see that happen.
But Governor, so do you believe it? Could you?
Do you think he's answered the question? Because I don't think he's answered the question, in my opinion. He hasn't actually said anything, really, to be honest. He's kind of explained that, yeah, things have to stay restrictive. The ECB, which is the European Central Bank, have said so. The Fed have also said so. And the Fed, by the way, the last week or so, said they have to increase their interest rates because their inflation rate is marked to go up. Right? So their inflation is marked to go up. Therefore, they're going to be increasing interest rates. Now, we're on the opposite spectrum to this, as we've already seen. We're likely to go from 6.8 to 5.8%. But he's not answered the real question here, as in for how long. And this is part of the challenge, because yes, we don't know what's coming down the track, and you have to act according to what is in front of you. But I'm still a little confused. Like, what are you going to do? Are you increasing rates? Are you not increasing rates? Like, what's happening? Like, allow people to plan. Like, we've had so much bad news, if you will. He talked a little bit about the fact that people need to feel it in their pockets to feel that it's real. You tell me in the comments, or even in the chat right now, if you're with me live, do you feel as though inflation has come down? You may have seen a little bit of a reduction in your energy cost, but nowhere near compared to the rise that you've seen over the past 12 to 18 months from where they were back then. So yeah, energy prices have come down. That will factor in some of the inflation numbers. But do you, as a person, feel as though things are getting cheaper? And if that is one of the markings of whether this policy is working or not, well, I guess the jury is going to be out in the decision around whether that is actually the case for the everyday person on the streets of the UK right now. Because I honestly believe that most people will tell you, actually, no, things are still quite expensive. I'm still struggling to make ends meet. And actually, I'm still struggling. I think that's the moral of a story for a lot of people here. But in this article, this piece here is really, really interesting. It says, it is the latest sign that members of the 9-strong rate-setting MPC, which is the Monetary Policy Committee, are concerned about heaping too much pressure on the UK economy and the expense of being inflation down. This is really what it boils down to, where they once said, we'll happily push this monetary policy until, look, if we go into recession, we go into recession. This is a massive U-turn. It also says here, the Bank of England's governor's comments echo those of chief economist Hugh Pill, who said last week he favoured keeping rates tighter for longer instead of sending them to a steep peak only to lower them shortly after. And I do agree with that, because one of the things that I guess people struggle with, and it is a potential challenge, is the fact that if you essentially go and peak out like interest rates, so let's just say you go and push them to 5.5%, maybe even 6%, then in the very, very next cycle of the next 2-3 months, you go from 6% to 5%. What would be the point of actually having that increase in the first place? So you need to find a little bit of a balance. But what I'm seeing here is, look, there's a lot of confusion. You know, there is a concern that the Bank of England may tip the UK into unnecessary recession by lifting borrowing costs too high. Well, listen, they are already pretty high as they are. And so, look, I have no idea. Are they going to increase rates? Are they going to keep it the same? 1 second. Let's get rid of that. There we go. Let's get rid of that. So I have no idea what they're actually doing. Is this a U-turn? It sounds like it. I have no idea what they're going to do. I mean, I'm sure that we're going to see, let me just share this again. I'm sure we're going to see the forecast that we've been tracking change over the next few weeks, as they always do. But if you look at the interest rate line here, this is what is currently being predicted as of right now. So we're currently at 5.25%. The Monetary Policy Committee meets on the 21st of September. So that is literally in about, 14 days. 2 weeks from now, the Monetary Policy Committee meets. So the proof is going to be in the pudding as to whether or not on the 21st, we see the bank rate go from 5.25% to 5.5%. I don't know what's going to happen. I really, really don't. The risk that they run is if they don't put the bank rate up and inflation creeps up, doesn't go according to plan, they're going to be blamed for not doing it. I'm just confused. I don't know. If I'm confused, I'm sure you're confused because I have no idea what they're going to do. It's the impact of what this means for the people that really concerns me the most. So I'm a little lost, but you tell me what you think. Let me just end this poll and let's just get a gauge on what you guys think on the question that I have asked. Let me just bring this over here. So the result, no surprise here, the question was, do you think A, the Bank of England have no clue or they have a plan? So 73% of you think that the Bank of England have no clue. 26% of you think that they have a plan. Where do I sit? I think they're in between the two. I don't think they have a concrete plan. I think the plan is to bring down inflation. That's the plan. But how to do it at the moment is still very much in limbo. They're playing it by ear. They're kind of, okay, let's see what happens and what we need to do with interest rates. The language that they were using at the top of this around, look, we're going to do what is necessary. I remember being on a live here, maybe about a month and a half ago. I was reading the MPC, the Monetary Policy Committee summary notes, and it said in the paragraph, we will do what is necessary to bring inflation down, even at the risk that the economy goes into recession. It was there in black and white. I read it live here on the channel. This seems like a little bit of a change of language, a change of tone. The only thing that I'm going to hope for is that whatever they decide works at the end of the day. I don't care whether they are effectively running with their heads between their legs with no clue, or whether they just have a whimsical plan that miraculously works. I just want something to work, because I think we need to be in an environment where there's a little bit more security. There's a little bit more certainty around what's coming down. One thing that I haven't shown you is, we mentioned that the pound dropped to a 3-month low. Let's have a very quick look at that before I actually end this live, because I do think it's actually very, very interesting indeed when you see the graph live. So I actually want to share this tab with you. Here we go. So this is the pound. This is the pound versus the dollar, by the way. May, the end of May, we were at £1.22 roughly to the dollar. Now look at where we are. I mean, we did have a peak right here to 131, but we're now down here, and we've not been this low since about June, roughly. So this is the 3-month low that they were referring to right here. I mean, this isn't necessarily good either. That's a completely different video what to talk about. But look, this is where I think you just want to know that you have competent people at the helm making decisions. And don't get me wrong, these guys are way more smarter, way more qualified than I am. I just sincerely hope that they get it right. Anyway, let's jump into your comments right here. See what you guys are saying. No name, thank you for your comment, by the way. Really do appreciate it. And if you haven't liked the video already and you have got value from this, please consider smashing the like button. It just means that after I press end on this stream, someone else who might benefit from what we've been talking about will also be recommended this video by the YouTube algorithm. And if you've not already subscribed, please consider subscribing as well. Let's have a look at this comment right here. Obviously, no direct correlation with the UK, but Ireland's CPI has gone up in August from 5.8 to 6.3%. Inflation is not over. I think there is a little bit of a risk of that. I think we are on a downward trajectory, but it's whether or not there will be any surprises that come along. I hope not. You remember at one point, maybe about 4 months ago, we were at 10.1 or something like that, or sub 10, and we jumped up, and it was like, what happened? I hope something like that doesn't happen, but you just never know. Williams is saying here, I did actually have a look at the voting record of Andy Hardane yesterday, and it's very, very interesting to look at the voting records of the MPC members. And Andy Hardane, if you've not watched the live yesterday, it's worthwhile going to watch. It's very, very informative in terms of some of the thoughts that he shares on that on that. But when I looked at his voting record, let me see if I can actually just share this with you, actually, to be fair, because I think it might be quite interesting. Now, bearing in mind, there was a comment which actually, I was trying to look for this information before I went live yesterday. But there was a comment that was on that video today that I was like, actually, I need to go find it. And it took me about 20 minutes to find all of this. But let me just share this window with you so you can see what his voting record was. Because whilst I liked what he was saying, he came across as he was very kind of like level-headed and he knew what he was talking about. I was kind of like, okay, but if you are naturally inclined to take the the cautious approach to monetary policy, that may not necessarily work right now. And that right there is kind of a conundrum. We talked about it yesterday. In fact, that, you know, if he was on the Monetary Policy Committee and he had voted 2 hikes ago not to, will that have made a difference? I don't think it would have. But would he have been able to influence the room, given his expertise and his experience and the fact that he's well respected and he's the leading expert in financial stability in the country? Would that have swayed what people had done, how people voted? We're never going to know right now. But I did have a look at his voting record. Let me just do a little search here. You can see. So he was at the Bank of England between 1989 and 2021. This is his voting record right here in this column. So it says here, he voted to increase the bank rate 3 times. He voted to maintain it 62 times, and he voted to reduce it 3 times. So 68 votes altogether during his tenure. Most of them to maintain, 3 of them to reduce, 3 of them to increase. But 89 to 2021, completely different time. You could argue that he had the financial crash during that period of time, which, yeah, he may have decided to up rates or lower the rates at that point. But at that point, we were in heavy rate reduction mode. So if he only voted 3 times, I would love to see how that actually worked out. Let me see if I can actually go down and actually find this actually, because we should be able to see it here in terms of his voting record. And what we want to find is 2007, 2008. I think I've just zoomed past it here. When does his record start? So I've only got voting records here from 2014 or so. So we'll never know because we don't have that data right now. Anyway, look, went off on a little bit of a tangent there. I do hope that you found this useful. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. I do appreciate every single one of you. And thank you for voting in the poll. I'll probably see you tomorrow evening for another live. But again, if you did get value, make sure you smash the like button. And if you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. I will catch you later on. Let's just get rid of that. And let's go to the outro.
Yeah. Surprise, a little different than you used to. Yeah. Dropping these bars on YouTube, knowledge I introduce you. Yeah. We chasing this money like it's the prize, it's the voodoo. Fugazi, fugazi, it's just a lie we buying into. We need some cars on deck. Get the rollies, get the Moe, all the Mars on deck. We got the traders, got the picture with the Bentley in Dubai. Are you dripping in designer looking fly? On the bombardier, sipping on the wine. Broke man, we broke. Where's the fun in being broke? Stocks and bonds get you yo. That's what I'm teaching these folks. I see that smoke, see them choke. Getting coke. While I'm researching these stocks, buying coke. 20 months on the channel, million people taking note. I got a warrant for Buffet. I'm coming for his vote.